Okay, we're going to cover the Hunters. This is, I got a little confused here. This is a Consim Press game. Um, John Krantz forwarded it to me. He actually handed it to me at the convention, but he planned on getting it to me. As sort of more of a thank you than as a real review copy, because Marco and several other people have done reviews of it. However, even though I'm under no obligation or anything like that, I do like to get things, some additional press. I don't know how much it's going to help this. For one thing, I'm not a big fan of made-for-solo games, and this has its roots in the old B17 type system. However, the designer, and this is where I got confused, I thought John actually designed it, but the designer is Gregory M. Smith. Wanted to give you more opportunities to make real meaningful choices than you do in a game of B17. In B17, you pretty much, you're handed a mission, you fly out to it, things happen to you, you fly back, and there really ain't a lot you can do. If something's in your arc, you fire at it. If it's not, you don't. There are a few more decisions from what I can tell here. Now, I haven't played it yet, and this is going to be my first playing. But I have read the rules, maybe more than my first playing. What it presents you with is not just a single mission, although I guess you can do that, but rather the framework for a campaign where you follow one admiral or one U-boat captain's career, and he might, you're worried about, let me see, shit, I lost my counter tray. I guess I didn't bring it in. Let's walk over to the mess. This is just because I don't want to, yep, that's right. One of my many Consim pickups. Lots and lots of cheap games always there. It's really a buyer's market there. And unfortunately, I have too many games as it is. But we need the counters to take a quick look at. Because you're worried about the rank of your officer and you're worried about what medals he ends up getting. Now, as to the system itself, I'm going to kind of skim through the rule book again, but this is really the kind of game where you're not going to make a lot of decisions that are based on, a full understanding of the rules, or you don't have to. You make your decisions based on how you see how they play out, and since I haven't played, I can't really give you a great feel for that except by playing through it. I probably should wait to do the introduction until after I start playing, but that always seems so kind of alien. So your objective is obviously to score a lot of kills in terms of tonnage, but also you want to complete other missions because your rank comes from that. And you've got, in terms of stuff here, for every different type of ship or U-boat that you could have, its own little control sheet that you'll be running your ship from. And these are all double-sided so that we don't use up too much printing on them. Then we have this little combat mat here, which is where you're going to actually target enemy convoys and such not. What do we have here? These are charts. These are all charts to allow you to randomize what particular target you have. The only really important thing from game term in that is what the tonnage of the ship is. But if you want it to be more realistic, once you sink a ship, you don't have to take it anymore. And then, I don't remember why this one is here. These, I think, are additional ships if you end up running out of ships. I'm not sure of what the option is here, why you would use this one. And it's also possible when you're traveling that random events will happen. They're very unlikely, and if they do happen, bad stuff, or perhaps good stuff, happens. That bad stuff could be as bad as your commanding officer just dying, and then the game is over. Of course, you can choose to ignore that if you wish. One of the things with this game is that based on the time and the type of submarine you have, you get different kinds of missions. and it also, based on the time, you might have different types of escorts, etc., that you're going to face. So these charts are going to help with that. This is to actually handle when you're firing your flak guns, if you're above the water, I guess. There's different encounters, again, by different location. Are there modifiers here? There are, based on the time period and other aspects. And then what do we have here? Some more combat charts and detections, whether or not an escort detects you, for example, or an air escort does. What damage does to you. Whenever you take damage, you roll an 11 to 66 to see where it's marked, and then you'll be marking that on your ship sheet. And you'll get a chance to repair that. And the explanation of all the different damage results is on here. You have a log sheet to mark down kind of what you're doing each month and what you killed and all that kind of information. You don't really need this sheet of paper, but it'll help you organize things. Trying to see if there's... See, I kind of almost don't want to go through the rules of the game because I don't really understand them. I've read it twice, and it's not the kind of rule book. It's not the kind of subject matter that lends itself to, comprehending the rules. It's going to be something that you do and learn from playing. So I would probably suggest going over to Marco's videos for any kind of real flavor of the game prior to playing. And there are other people who are, someone else did a field review too, and then there are other people who are doing playthroughs of it. So there's kind of a, this has enough coverage, but somebody gives me a free game, and if it's something I'm interested in, I'm going to cover it. Okay, so let's see. You're going to basically do, I guess, kind of a see what happens before in terms of what orders you're given. And then you're going to sail out. And you sail out by moving along this path from, a starting location through certain zones where you'd be trying to catch ships, then back to your starting port again. And then once you get back to port, you're allowed to refit your ships. You check perhaps for promotions if it's the end of the year. You can heal your crew because individual crew members get killed, etc. And then, they've got special rules here for wolf packs, for special missions like mine laying and moving agents into combat. You've got rules to handle day and night engagements. I'm just trying to give a real light overview. You're keeping track of ammo, so you have to specifically load your torpedo tubes prior to actually engaging, and then as you fire torpedo tubes, you have reloads kept in these boxes, and they'll be moving up into play. Now, for the more historical minded play, which I probably will be doing, you can only start out with steam-powered torpedoes. You actually have two different types of powering of torpedoes. You have the steam-powered torpedoes, and you have the electric ones. And the steam-powered ones are a little faster. The electric ones, though, leave less of a trail. Therefore, they're harder to track you back to the ship, to your sub. So they'll make detection a little harder after you fire them, which makes them better to use in an escort. The problem is you've only got steam-loaded ones loaded at first because the electric ones were really finicky and tended to break down, and they couldn't leave them in the tubes for any length of time. And there's no way to pull things back from the tubes. So once they've been loaded, they're in place. Got the escort firing on you. This is almost just an unboxing in terms of how it affects. So in terms of some of the choices that you have the choice to try to dive deeper than you would normally be able to go with the submarine in order to help you evade an enemy. And that will start crushing your hull. And the more hull damage you take, the more likely you are to sink. And basically, you're going to be traveling out here and having random encounter checks as you go. And then when you come back from a mission, if you've had a certain number of successful missions, you're able to get some additional experience to your crew possibly. And each year you get a chance for a promotion to come. And then at certain times you get a chance, if you're really successful, you get a chance of rolling for, well, by really successful, I mean once you reach certain milestones like 100,000 tons sunk or a capital ship, you get a chance to achieve a decoration, and those decorations are here at different grades. Both rank and decorations are going to give you special abilities. This is kind of like the Red Sash games where, you know, after you play what, except they make more sense in a solo campaign. After you've played a certain number of Red Sash games and like collected up bonuses, that anytime you play you have these random bonuses added to you. Well, here the bonuses make sense though. They're the experience of this one general or one captain going again and again. So what's kind of interesting here is they suggest a two-player head-to-head type game, and I think that would be a real kick. I could see my wife and I doing that, where basically one player plays the random events, etc. And I did this kind of thing with Starfleet Battles as well. And they alternate, you know, one person's playing the submarine trying to go on a mission, and the other person's playing their submarine going on a mission contemporaneously, and you're just trying to outdo the other person. But there are also tournaments that are more extensively set up where, like, you know, try to get the most tonnage over the course of the entire war, and you're just in head-to-head competition. They do this over at Constant World Expo. There's the table set up, and sometimes people are playing there trying to rack up the points for, I guess there's a prize for that. But more interesting to me is the idea of the Wolfpack scenario. I didn't read this too carefully, but it would require multiple sets of the game, but you're allowed to operate together hunting convoys at the same time. That seems like kind of a real kick to have, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 people all at once, or maybe 6, all trying to hunt. Now, the one big decision I'm going to have to make at the beginning of the game is what sub to play. And I got a few choices, the 7A, 7B, and 9A. Now, if you take a Type 7 sub, you're stuck in it for the rest of the game. And the Type 9 sounds, from the rules, to be a little bit more interesting in terms of the missions it goes on. It also has a stronger ability to handle flooding damage. It has multiple flak guns, heavier ammo, heavier deck gun, but less ammo total to it. More aft torpedoes for what that matters. If you fire both forward and aft torpedoes, though, there's a problem, if I recall correctly. There's a weird, heavy, it's got more flak guns than most of the Type 7s do. I guess it was not a very popular choice. So I'd be going with the 9A. And there are chances to upgrade, but you upgrade only within your class of submarine. Here's the 7A. Not sure what the difference between the 7A and more reloads in the B. A lot more reloads over here on the 9, which means I can undertake a longer mission. I believe the 9 also has the ability to actually extend its mission beyond a single month, which makes it kind of exciting here. You have multiple types of engine, your diesel and your electric. The diesel you use for your main cruising, but once you're ready to make a strike, you want to be on the electric engine because you'll be running quieter. These are all for when you get critical hits of some sort or another, they'll affect those points. So the biggest difference, I think, between the ships is actually what kind of mission you're going to get stuck with. And that's going to take some thinking for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do a real intro for this. I'm gonna just jump in and start playing because I'm not willing to go through the rules introduction here. I'm not comfortable enough with them, and I'll struggle my way through. Hopefully it'll be of some interest to some people, but I don't know. So I made my selection. I'm going with a Type 9A. I had the impression from the rules at least that they're the more advantageous one, and that's where I'd like to start. When you start with a 9A, in this year you end up a Captain Lieutenant, and you fill out your type and you can put your ID. Hard call here, both I think it was between 37 and 42 are of this type. I like the number 39 a lot, but of course some people would get more of a kick if I'd made 42 there. And this is Captain Lieutenant Kaput, because unlike Stuka Joe, I'm not going to name my crew or captain after specific people. Actually, individual crew members aren't named in this. Of course, they probably aren't in B-17 either. Usually, they're maybe a space fit though. He did a really wonderful job with that game, making counters for all sort of the personalities in the Wargaming forum from BGG. So a lot of the names, especially video people involved in the video stuff. So I was in there, and I got wounded and knocked out for a while, and replaced by a better gunner. I was probably smoking too much while I was firing. Okay, so what did I do? Well, I set up the other stuff that's important. You start off with a regularly trained crew. The crew can run from green, trained, veteran, and there's an elite crew somewhere, I think. I seem to remember that. Maybe it's on the other side of trained. No. I don't know. I seem to remember there was an elite, but maybe I'm mistaken. Set up my different torpedoes, all steam in the front. I'm playing with that option, but some electric ones in my reloads, and in fact my entire aft reload is electric. I figure, hey, if I'm firing out my ass, I probably don't want to be tracked. That's just my guess. I may not be understanding some of the concepts there. There's a little space to put your ship when it's in port, and then it also travels down these tracks as it travels. And I think that's all we do for setup. At this point, now what I'm going to be doing is figuring out my assignment table. Okay, I guess we'll start. And I am totally doing this for the first time here. So I'm going to be, well, it's September 39, so I'm going to be rolling some dice and see what my job is. And my job is the most common of British Isles, but there's a little number next to that of 4, which says if I was a Type 7D, I would be treating normal British Isles as a British Isles mine-laying mission. I guess I can write this down here. I guess. As to where I'm going to be, and then I'm going to be here. This is not an MA, so I'll be starting here in the transit of the Bay of Biscay. Beside the first transit box, so I think I'm not actually in it yet. And then I'll start my actual patrol. And like anything where I'm following a cookbook or regimens like this, I have to walk away and take some time off. I just can't face setup and stuff like that without until I internalize it. It's going to be a lot of breaks in playing this. Okay, so I guess I move into this transit Bay of Biscay box, and then I have to go to this encounter chart. And jeez, Bay of Biscay special missions versus transit. I'm not sure which one I'm gonna be in here. So I'm going to be checking encounter chart E1. Okay. There don't seem to be any modifiers on any of this. I just don't know which chart I'm on. And unfortunately, roll on each travel box. Exception. Some contain... Alright. Well, Bay of Biscay isn't mentioned anywhere except under these transit boxes. So I'm guessing where it says Bay of Biscay and special missions, that's what I'm supposed to do. So on a 2, 3, or 4, I get found. And I do not, which means we go back here. We check for encounters. We didn't roll a 12. A 12 can cause random events, I believe. And then we just go to the next box. And we keep doing this. So now I move to a transit box, and I guess I roll on the transit table here. And I roll a 7. I don't find anything there. Now I go out to the British Isles, and I roll to see what I find, if anything. I get a 9. That's another blank. I'm still in the British Isles. I get a 7. A 7's another blank. I'm still out in the British Isles. I'm having a very uneventful... I found a convoy. Roll 4 times for each ship size and ID. The convoy has an escort. All right. Well, because I'm going to have to determine the escort for the convoy, I'm going to break away a little bit and figure out what the rules for that are and come back with them. So the first thing I have to do is determine the size of the ships. And for this, I roll for essentially 4 dice. And I get 2 small freighters. Let me get markers for those. Another small freighter and a large freighter. So that's going to be my targets. And I'll just put them up here. Now, I have to determine the exact ships to get their tonnage. What does that matter at this point? It matters because some of the freighters are going to reach different damage. So for example, a small freighter is going to die here, but the large freighters, if they're under 10,000 tons displacement or over 10,000 tons, depends on their damage level, and it also depends on how valuable it is. I'd rather go after the biggest of the small freighters than a smaller one. So in order to do this, I'm going to not use the optional freighters. I don't remember what they're for. Let's see. Yeah, that's to, if you get the same ship again, to recover it. So, let's do our small freighters. The first one is number 97. That's going to be the Sea Glory at 2,000 tons. Now, unfortunately, I don't have an easy way to cover them here. I can write down my targets, but if I didn't sink them, that's not going to really help. The second small freighter, and I can actually write the number down. That'll be 97. Okay, number 15 is a 5,000 ton Sliedrecht. That sounds tasty. '51 is a 3,500 Baron Pentland. Now I'm going to have to make some hard decisions here. And then we go to the large freighter, and we get 06, which is the Louisiana. That's 7,000 tons. Now I've marked those all down. Now I gotta find my page again. There's a North American target roster. Down here, which is when we're only facing the North American stuff. Okay. As you identify the type and size, select the corresponding target ship marker to be placed on the U-boat combat mat to resolve combat. I've done that. I can decline to attack, in which case I can leave without any problem. Well, that sounds boring. I'm certainly going to make an attempt to kill something. For each engagement, I consult the encounter chart to see if it's a day or night engagement. And I roll a quick die. It's daytime. That's not good for me. I have this little marker which I can put here. Now if I don't like daytime, I can try to switch it at the risk of losing contact. Consult the encounter chart to attempt to change to night. That sounds like a good idea to me. So on a 1 through 4 I get to switch to night. I'm not really willing to take a risk here. Nope, I lost them. And that means they're just gone. And I didn't find them. And so we thought we were going to get to do something, but I ended up chickening out. And I can leave this up here because that'll change. Well, I think it's time to pause as I go into the British Isles again, because that was too fatiguing for me to keep going. Okay, let's keep pushing on and learning what we can learn. We're still in the British Isles, and I should just erase these. They have no further effect on play. The only reason I'd want to keep track of them is if I do sink them. And the important thing there is to see how much tonnage I sunk. I guess I could leave them in there, but erasing ahead of time doesn't hurt. Okay, so let's see what we got here. 9, still not finding anything, and I'm gonna be upset at myself if I don't get anything this mission, which looks like the case for having been a chicken shit. Let's keep seeing 6. That doesn't sound bad. So this is a ship plus an escort. Okay. Well, that's about as bad as I could get, but I'm unlikely to find anything in the transit, so I'm going to probably take a shot at this, even if it's a daytime, just because I want to score some points. Basically, a mission is a failure if you don't sink anything at all, so I don't want to come back without a kill. All right. So we figure out what kind of ship we have here. And we have nothing but a small freighter. That's a pity. And we get to see what it's called. It's number 25, which is going to be the Scoresby at 3,800. I probably would have gone for that anyhow, but now if you're gonna keep track of these historically it might help to make a photocopy of this sheet or put it in plastic so that you can cross ships off as you hit them. I may slip it in plastic at some point just because I do like that idea. All right. Now I check what time of day I'm going. I get a 1. That's going to be a daytime encounter again. Ah, I've still got it up here. Okay. Now, there looks like I can put these away. Some information here. And yes, I'm just learning to see what I find. I don't want to try for a night ship. Now this is an escorted ship. I select the range. At short range, I check for escort detection. Otherwise, I go to step 5. I don't want to go to short range because I have to go through an extra escort detection if I want to slip in that close. That seems dangerous. Although it's definitely the higher risk, higher payoff type maneuver, which maybe I should be doing. But again, I'm kind of chicken. This is my first time piloting one of these boats. So then I select a submerged attack or night surface attack. Oh. Okay. Well, in order to do that, I'm going to have to find the combat tables, I think. This has planes. Okay, night surface. I'm not doing that. Oh. Let's see. Submerged attack or night surface attack. Well, let me see if this follows any of that I can find. Consult the expert. Okay, so I think I'm doing a submerged attack. I think that's my automatic if it's not at night. I assign torpedoes to ship targets. Well, I can fire multiple torpedoes at one target, but if I fire my aft and forward at the same time, I get a penalty. So I'm going to shoot 4 forward torpedoes at that thing, I believe. Fire torpedoes, determine hits, U1. I wonder what U1 stands for. It stands for this. Okay, so I'm going to go at medium range because I don't want to be at long range. And I need a 7 or less to hit. I guess that's on 2 dice. Second salvo. Only possible in night surface or unescorted. Okay. G7E. I'm not using G7Es. I'm using the steam torpedoes. They're better at long range. So basically, each one I guess I'm going to roll for a hit on a 7 or less. That's 1. Two. 3. I'm doing pretty good. Sorry about the camera. 4. So I hit with all 4. That sounds pretty good. And now the attack damage, well, I'm using my torpedo, not my deck gun. I could only do that if I was in the surface. And I guess I'm rolling, I think, a 6-sided die. It's hard to tell because the game comes with 10-sided dice. And the charts don't really help you out here. So let's see. Torpedo dud chart. Yeah, I didn't check that. My duds are 1 or 2, so I gotta roll 4 dice for that. I got 1. I got 2 duds, so I only actually hit with 2 of my torpedoes. You're getting a lot of detail in here built into different die roll systems. Very much an intuitive type design. I like that kind of design, but it can mean a little bit too much mechanical activity. Of course, this is a game that kind of relies on mechanical activity to keep it running. Oh, it does tell me a D6. So I've got 2 torpedoes coming in, no penalties. I want low rolls, actually. And I get 4 points of damage with my attacks. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to sink that ship. It's would have sunk up here, so I didn't need anywhere near that kind of firepower, which means I can mark this somehow as sunk just by, I don't know, leaving it there. And I've got 3,800 tons to my name. Great. However, we're not done yet because there are escorts. So I get to choose to exceed test depth. Basically, I would take some structural damage to do this automatically. I don't want to do that. So we're going to go to E2 and see if they detect me. And for this, it's again 2d6 this time. No modifiers there. I start looking to see, do I have anything here? I didn't take a close range. I didn't take long range, which give me a bonus in avoiding them. So I need an 8 or less. And I get it, and I slip away. I've sunk all targets, so I can just get out of there. Otherwise, I would have the opportunity to try to follow and keep shooting at them. I'm not detected, so I don't get depth charged. And I got myself a kill there. And now we're going back to the transit box, and I need another rest because that was pretty exciting for me. I'm not being facetious here. I really do. You know, when I'm running the camera straight on and trying to explain what I'm doing, it makes it all the harder, you know, to work my way through a new system. Later on, I'll get more comfortable with it, but I think this is the best way for me to learn this, is to just play it. Because unlike a lot of games, most solitaire games really don't allow you too much leeway, and this one doesn't seem to be an exception to that, in terms of, you know, trying to outmaneuver the other guy's strategy. Your focus isn't really on that. Now, obviously, you know, with what I just played, actually, Forbidden Island, which is not at all a war game, as the Shogun Shonuff proved to me, or pointed out to me, it doesn't, you know, in a game like that, I know what my goal kind of is, and I'm playing it out, and it's all very mechanically simple. This one's actually mechanically complicated, where I've got a lot of different charts to consult, etc. I think once you get used to the flavor of them, it becomes very easy. I used to play long ball this way, and, you know, where you're just rolling dice, looking up, rolling dice, looking up, and that's what this is going to largely turn into. One thing I do want to do, though, is reload my torpedoes, just in case I find something else. Well, what am I likely to find? Maybe I don't want to load them that way. I've got to find the right chart, is what I've got to find. Oh, here it is. That's why I didn't see it. So my patrol, I'm going to be going into the transit box. Chances are I'm going to hit an aircraft. If I do hit a ship, I want to sink it. It doesn't look like it has a likely, there's a little 1 next to it. Let's see what that means. The first natural 12 is going to be a random event. So chances are I'm not going to run into anything that I can use torpedoes on. So that it's possible a random event might cause a ship to show up anyway, though. So we'll write this up as a positive first mission so far. Although we are sort of kicking ourselves for not taking that convoy on. We could have done... This doesn't belong here. We could have done some more damage and scored some more kills. But that's okay. Okay, well, let's see if we have anything more eventful. We move into the transit box. And now here we're rolling on this table. We got a 12. That's a random event, not a ship. Now, obviously, you could make the random events completely optional. Let's see what happens. It could be good, it could be bad. More likely bad, I think. Gyro, not gyro. Compass failure. Okay, so I need to get a counter for this. And somewhere, I think there's a marker. Alright, I don't think there is. So I roll for a 1 or a 2. If I had an expert LI, who I think is my engineer, I could repair it. Otherwise, I'd have to abort my patrol. I have to abort my patrol. Aborting my patrol doesn't mean I end up at home. I still have to sail my way back. It just means that if I had been, part way out, I'd be turning around and making my way back. Now let's see if it has any other effects as well. Okay, abort is not listed here in the index. There's nothing to lead me into. There are some additional tables here. Nothing to lead me into aborting a patrol from there. And this is always a problem when you've got to find something. If you haven't sort of absorbed the rules fully, in the sense of rules that read easily, you can remember what's where, but this is just a set of events almost. Here we go, patrol abort. I immediately go to the nearest transit box space and roll for an encounter normally. Well, I was on one, and now I continue rolling for encounters until I reach home. I cannot initiate combat, but I can be attacked. Alright, and I could do this as my own choice. Now, that means I go to the transit box for the Bay of Biscay. And that's a 2 through 4. And now I've made it home to port. Well, I undergo refit. This is going to eat up 1 month of my game. Now, if I didn't have that gyro damage, there would be a possibility that I would be able to, because of an optional rule, whip around and do another cruise without refitting. There's a refueling rule. Resupply at sea, where a milk cow I'd have to roll a 1, I believe, and then I'd go into the Bay of Biscay table for an extra risk, and then I could take some new torpedoes, or, well, or not, depending on my roll. And then I would be able to continue on my patrol, I guess, for the next month. As if it was part of the same month. But the way it goes now is I'm going to be in refit for October of 39. Now, let's assess this patrol and see how well I do. I'm gonna have to find it. I know there's a success versus failure description. I think I've got success for sinking anything, but I'm not sure. I don't know where my oh, there it is. Because I'm a type 9, even without refitting, without refueling and resupplying, I could have gone out for another period. I had the rule for that just under my nose a little while ago. My mission was a success, but here all type 9s can conduct patrols of greater duration. You place a P in the first month roll of the patrol log sheet upon return to base to reflect this extended patrol before replacing an R on the log months for refit. So I think that means that I would have gotten to run through another sequence. That's not absolutely clear to me from the way it's worded, but I think that means the same situation that I get from a resupply at sea, which is that I would end up back in the table. But maybe it just means that I take twice as many months to run my patrols, and that I'm less likely to find stuff than the Type 7s. In which case, I probably should not be in the Type 9, right? Although they do have more missiles, more torpedoes. Conducted patrols, place a P in the first... See, that just sounds like... But I had to return early, and this all confuses me. So I'm going to say that I would get to loop back through without resupplying, just because my fuel reserves are higher. I don't know if that's what's intended by the rules, and you can say, well, dude, you didn't read the rules very carefully. Yeah, that is true, but this doesn't seem terribly well described. The way it's actually written, it sounds like I'm just boned out of the next month. I don't want to do that. That these things just get half as much excitement, basically. I don't think that's what's intended, though, but that's how it reads the way it's written. Anyway, I'm taking the R here, which will allow me to refit, and this counts as a successful patrol because I shot a ship. Now, I would say that if I'm out for a 2-month patrol, that counts as a single patrol for, determining success or failure. And the reason success and failure is important is after 3 successful patrols, I'm able to improve my crew quality. After, I think it's 3 consecutive failed patrols, my crew quality declines because they're worse. Anyway, that's the first patrol. We're going to put that down as September 39, and I'll just keep going with the campaign, and probably not in as much detail, and keep you guys kind of, maybe jump in when things get kind of exciting. Like, for example, once we get an escort actually shooting at us. I was hoping to be able to see how that works, and we'll zoom in a little more. But other than that, it's just kind of going to be me playing, rolling dice and looking at tables a lot. And that's not terribly interesting from my point of view. Although I guess for some people it may be interesting to watch that. But...